Hey everybody, Dr. Helbin here. How the heck are you doing? Are you having a nice spring? It's beautiful here in Colorado right now in mid-April. In this video, what I want to do is go over showing you how to install Docker on a VM and use it. This would be in your cluster node environment. Theoretically, we could take and create one cluster node and then copy it over to different VMs or do something differently. But right now I think it's just important to understand how to get Docker installed and how to create a container. So let's get started. This is on a pathway towards something that's very, very important in the IT industry right now. It's called DevOps, where we're putting developers together with network people and server people, cloud people, and we're creating this sort of thing that runs for us independently, and that's essentially where we're headed. We want to go down the road a little bit so you understand what DevOps is. So this should be interesting and informative. Let's get started. Before we go down the road too far, we need to know what Docker is actually. Docker is open source software. It's very good. It's taken the world by storm. And the idea is that you're creating what are called containerized applications. What that means is that the application itself is very much embedded inside a container. There's no other extra things that are needed to run it, with the exception of having the Docker engine running. If you think of it about, you think about a containerized application, and it's got all of these needs, these requirements that go together with it. It's somewhat similar, it's analogous to painting a house. You're going to go paint a house, you get all the paint colors put together, all of the stir sticks, the brushes, the roller covers, the rollers, all that stuff, the tape, put it all together. That would be an intact thing that has a bunch of dependencies, like I'm dependent upon having a brush so that I can paint, for example. That's the idea. And so what we want to do with Docker is we assemble an application where all of the dependencies are put together. Now the beautiful thing about Docker is it doesn't rely necessarily on the operating system that it's going to run on. So you could create a Docker container that will run on Linux or Windows or Unix or whatever. And so that's one of the things that makes Docker really great. Also, it kind of takes the system administrator out of the picture a little bit. That's not exactly fair. The sysadmin still has to provide a place where these things are going to run and manage them, and that's where Docker and Kubernetes comes in partly. But the concept is that we have a one-stop shopping environment for our application, and so we can blow it up, reuse it, copy it, those kinds of things. So Docker is fantastic for this. Yes, there is a Docker certification. It's something that you should think about getting if you're interested in getting into DevOps. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to install Docker. I'm going to do this on a compute node, and since my last video was on how to make a copy or a clone of a compute node, that's what we're looking at here is compute node 3. It could be any one of these. The reason you want to Dockerize the compute nodes is because they contain everything that's needed in order to be able to run other Linux cluster nodes. However, let me clear up a couple of notes here. I'm going to turn away and read my notes here. So the question is, do I need Docker installed on all of the compute nodes? And the answer is yes. If you want to run containers on those compute nodes, then Docker must be installed on them. So if I'm going to run a Docker container, I have to have Docker installed. But know if the compute nodes are themselves Docker containers. So what that would mean, that says then that Docker is only needed on the host machine. So the concept would be, I've got this host machine, and it's got a lot of RAM, a lot of hard drive space, all dedicated to everything. I can have multiple Docker nodes running. Now there's two possible scenarios. The first is you're using a VirtualBox like we're doing here plus Debian 12 VMs as hosts. That's exactly what we're doing. And you're running Docker inside those VMs you must install Docker manually on each VM. Else, you're running everything inside Docker containers via Docker Compose on one host VM. We'll get to Docker Compose here in a minute. That, of course, implies that you don't have separate little VMs. You just have these separate Docker containers that are all running inside your master node. And so you have the two choices. Now let's get started installing Docker, because this isn't really too bad. So first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and update everything. I'll clear the screen here, and I'm going to do a sudo apt update. I'll put in a double ampersand sudo apt upgrade tac y. What this will do is the update says, okay, what are the latest things that are out there that I have the ability to update, but it doesn't update them. It just updates the link to the database that shows you all of the current updates, and then upgrade handles upgrading those updates. So let's go ahead and do that. This might take a minute. I might wind up having to pause this video long enough so that you can, because it might take a minute for it to run. So I'll come back to you in just a shake here. Okay, so we've got that. That's all installed. Everything's running and looking good. Next thing we want to do is we have to install a certificate authority certificate for use with Docker, and there's one that is created for GNU. We talked about GNU, the GNU open source licensing. So let's go do that. So that's going to be a sudo apt install, and then what we'll do is we'll say tac y. We're going to go get certificate authority tac certificates, like this, and it's plural. We're going to curl it from GNU PG. So what does this mean? GNU PG stands for GNU Privacy Guard, and this is an open source version of grabbing the certificate or authority certificates, and the word curl means that we're going to get it from the URL. So let's see what this looks like. We'll hit enter, and it's going to take this a minute. I will put you on hold again. Okay, that didn't take very long. I'll clear the screen. Next thing we want to do is we have to install a GPG key that will work with Docker. So this is a GNU Privacy Guard key that's going to encrypt and decrypt data from our Docker appliance here. And we're going to say sudo install tac m 0755. So what this is doing is this is adjusting the rights on this particular thing. We're going to tell it that we want to put this into etc apt keyrings like this, and we'll hit enter. Okay, that works really good. Next thing we're going to do is issue the curl command again. So we're going to say curl tac little f little s big S tac capital L capital S capital L. We're going to go out to https://. That's what curl does. It goes out to the web and grabs something. We're going to grab download.docker.com. We're going to go into Linux. We're going to go into Debian Linux, because that's what I'm running here. If you were running something else like Ubuntu, you might have to do something different, although Ubuntu is Debian. GPG, I'm going to put in the pipe key. And what pipe is going to do is we're going to add some more stuff to this. So we're going to type in GPG tac darmor. We'll put in a tac output is going to be at etc apt keyrings /docker.gpg, and then we will hit enter. Now we want to check and make sure that everything is correct here. So we do a curl tac fs sl https download docker.com Linux Debian GPD pipe sudo. Oops, I don't have the sudo there, so I better go put that in. I always want to check these commands twice, and I'll put some of these commands up when I below in the comments when I put this video up here. Tac darmor taco is going to go to etc apt keyrings docker gpg. So I hit enter. Very good. Next thing we're going to do is we want to change the permissions. So we're going to do a sudo chmod, and it's going to be an a+r, and we're going to do etc apt keyrings /docker.gpg. We're just changing the permissions on these. Oh, I misspelled that. It should be chmod, not chudmod. Like so. Beautiful. All that's done. Okay, here's another big command coming at you. And the reason I'm doing this, I'm looking at my notes, but I'm speaking it out here is because I want to take the opportunity to explain what some of these commands are doing. And look, if you're lost or you're stuck on one of these commands, I know I get this way. I go out and I look at AI or I look at the web. I try and figure out what these commands mean. So we are going to add a Docker repository. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to say echo, double quotes, deb, left square bracket. I'm going to type in the word arch equals $. I know this is really weird. We're going to tell it to go out to the Debian dpackage facility, dpkg facility, and we're going to do a tac print architecture, right parentheses. So let's see, the dpackage is left parentheses, and then we have a right parentheses over here, so that all looks good so far. We're going to say signed tac by equals. Now I'm not going to put a space in there. I always get weirded out. If there's a space, it could be that the command doesn't work correctly. So this is an area I normally like to see white space in between the commands, like when I'm programming, but in this kind of a case I leave the white space out of it. And we're going to say that it's going to be signed by etc apt keyrings, which is the work we just did, docker.gpg. Right square bracket. We're not done. That's all one command, but we're not quite done with it. We're also going to say https://download.docker.com/linux/debian. We're not done yet. We're going to put in another word. We're going to say bookworm stable, because that's the version of Debian that you're using right now. It's bookworm. And we'll put in a double quotes. Now this is where you stop and take a look. So I've got double quotes right there. I've got double quotes right there. So all of that is one intact command here. We're going to also add onto this, we're going to do a pipe. Now the command is T-E-E, and what it means is it's not like a golf tee, it's like a plumber's tee. And what it's doing is it's saying, I'm going to go do this on the screen, but I'm also going to do a log file for you so you can go back in there and look at it in case something goes wrong. So we're going to do a sudo t into etc apt sources.list.d/docker.list, and we're going to pipe all of that into device null. Okay, so what does all this mean? So let's start with the echo. Echo just outputs things to the screen. The Debian thing tells the system what we're going to add a new binary package. This is a package source, not source code. So this is a package that we're going to add. And the arch part means architecture. So we're having it figure out what architecture that we're running, the CPU type, for example, AMD 64. It also ensures that the downloads are built for my computer type, which is what the sign by line is doing there. It says that we're only going to trust packages from Docker only if they are signed by this key. The HTTPS thing tells us where the Docker stuff lives, how we're going to get it. The bookworm stable command means that we want to only get stable code. Now you remember that when we're downloading Linux code, we can get bleeding edge code, like it's experimental still. That's not what we want. We want something that's stable and that is working. We're going to save the output to Docker list, and I did not put a T on the end of that. That should be a list. And the device null just hides the output. So that's what we're doing there. So let's hit enter and see what happens. Oops, I've got an error there. Let me correct that error. Right there's my error. I forgot to put a T there as well. I just typed it in as list, and it needs to have a T there. So I'll put a T in there. Let's retry this. Beautiful. That worked out really well. Next, we're going to install the Docker engine. So you could do a sudo apt Update again. I don't think that we need to do that. All we're going to do is do it as sudo apt install. We put the TAC-Y here so it doesn't prompt us, hey, it's going to take up this much disk space. Is that okay? And the TAC-Y goes on the end of the install part there. We're going to tell it that we want to install Docker TAC-CE. That stands for Community Edition. We're getting the Docker Community Edition version here. And we want to also install Docker TAC-CE.cli, the command line interface. We're going to install container. This is an interesting thing, container.io. We're going to install the Docker TAC buildx, TAC buildx, TAC plugin. We're going to also install a thing called Docker Compose, which is something that you need to learn how to use. Plugin. So we're installing a bunch of products here. We're going to install Docker Community Edition, the Docker Community Edition CLI, the command line interface. We're going to install container.io, input output, that's handling the actual container. And then Docker buildx plugin and the Docker Compose plugin. So a bunch of stuff here, and we will hit enter. Now this might take a minute, so no, it didn't take it long at all. Okay, so I was wrong. It looked like doing the sudo apt update. You can see that I ran that here, and it did do some things that we needed. So let's see if I can hit the up arrow and get that command back now, and if it'll rerun for me. Boom. Unable to find any package container. Glob container.io. I need to see if that command is correct. It is not correct. It should say containerd. That's where the problem is out there. So I'm going to change this to containerd. This is a daemon, or a daemon if you will, and this is the service that's actually running Docker container.io. That looks much better. Okay, I'll put you on hold, come back in just a minute. Okay, now we get to test Docker and see if it's going to work. So the command is sudo, do so, sudo docker run, and there's a canned container called hello world that allows you to test and make sure that Docker is going to run okay for you. Now it says it's going to do it. I want to show this to you because initially it's going to tell you that it can't find it. Where's that? Yeah, unable to find image hello world latest. So the fact that it goes out and it gets it is really cool. I've got a SHA-256 key here. It downloads this, and then it says hello from Docker. So that is proving that that's running really, really well. Now there's a couple more things. I'm going to clear the screen here. Now we need to do a couple of other things. This isn't necessary, but I think it's probably good to do it. We're going to do sudo user mod tac-a capg. That's going to be a new group. The group is going to be called Docker, and we're going to put it in the user group. And then we're also going to create a new group called Docker. And that looks good. Clear the screen. Next, we have to create what is called a Docker file. Now we're going to put this in a specific directory, so I'm going to make a new directory. The directory is going to be a tac-p. What that's going to do is create subdirectories beneath it. So we create the initial directory, but then tac-p says, well, if you have other directories, go ahead and create those as well. And so we're going to do a tilde / that means in my home folder. We're going to call this Docker. We're going to create a Docker folder, and we're going to create a new folder called mpi compute tac node, like this. Boom. Then we will we will change into that folder, so cd into tilde / docker / mpi compute node, and hit enter. There we go. And we're going to create a file here called Docker file. So I'm going to do a nano Docker file like this. Okay, now we have some stuff we have to put in here. All right, let's take a look at this code. So what this code is doing is it's saying we're using Debian and we're using the bookworm particular image of Debian. Our environment is going to be Debian front end, non-interactive. We're going to do an update ampersand here. So sudo apt-get update. The get's not really necessary anymore, but I'll leave it alone. This backslash here means that we're skipping a line. We're telling it that when it runs this thing, everything's going to be all on the same command, but we might have to skip a line to do that. So that's why these backslashes are in here. We're going to install build essential, OpenMPI, libopenmpi dev, SSH, and then we're going to clean, and then we're going to remove some stuff here. We'll run user add. We'll add bin bash MPI user. We'll create a work directory, and we'll create a user directory. And then we say our command is bin bash. All that is doing is saying that when we run this thing, we're going to run it as a bash file. That's all it's saying. So I'll do a Control O and enter, and Control X. Okay, now we need to test building the container. So we type in docker build tac t, and we're going to build a container. I'm calling this compute node, but you could call it you could call it cluster node or whatever you wanted to call it. So I will hit in docker. It's not guild, it's build. Docker build tac t MPI compute node. Let's see what happens. Oh, that was really dumb. I didn't see that in my notes here. What we have to do is we're missing a very, very small command line option. I'm going to hit a space here, and I'm going to put a dot. Now, I've really learned to love this little dot here. What this dot is saying is put it right here, locally, right here. Without that dot, the command doesn't do anything. It just goes away. So what this is saying is I want you to build MPI compute node, and I want you to put it right here. That's where the container is going to live. Let's hit enter and see how we do. Oh, that looks really good. That's exactly what this should look like when a Docker container is being built here. You can see that it's telling you how many steps it's run. It ran 1 step, 2 steps. There's a total of 4 steps. I'll put you on hold once, and then I'll come back once this is done. Now, I should point out to you as well that as long as we have this MPI compute node folder here, this is where your C programs could go as well, so that when you're bundling things together, you could put those into your Docker container as well. Now that it's built, let's go ahead and test this out and see if it will run for us. So I'll do a docker/run. Now initially we did docker build. Now we do a docker run, and I'm going to put in a tac it, that means interactive, and then I'm going to do a tac remove run MPI compute node and hit enter. Might have to do a sudo on this. You know what happened to me? I accidentally somehow closed this terminal window. So when it went away, it came back. I was like, well, I don't know if this thing is finished running or not. So I wound up having to use sudo to get into it and run it. And it's running fine. And you can see that we've got a Docker prompt here now. So let's see if we can get some information out of this. So we do an MPI CC tac version and hit enter. That looks very great. So it's telling us that the version that we have of MPI, so that looks super good. Let's do an MPI run, and we'll do a tac version. That looks very good as well. So we've got everything that we need. Super good. Now we could go down a little different road. This is proving that it's running, and we could take and copy this particular container to somewhere else. Now what you have to think of is, okay, I need to clone a compute node, and then I'm going to copy this Docker container over to that compute node so that it has everything that is needed. Now this is kind of a cat chasing its tail, or a dog chasing its tail, because if we clone the compute node that's working already, we really don't need to go through this. The only thing I'm showing this to you for you is so that you understand that we could use Docker initially. Rather than building out all of these different compute nodes, we could create one compute node, we could create a Docker container, and then we could just copy that over to a new environment, another VM, so we could use it that way. Now there's another thing that we could do here, and this would require the use of Docker Compose, and it would require a lot more resources than we have here, is we could actually run multiple compute nodes right inside this particular VM. And if I was going to do that, what I would do is I would drastically enlarge the amount of disk space, because you need to recognize that when we create each one of these Docker containers, they're going to take up some space. Also want to add a bunch of RAM to it, a bunch of CPUs to it, so I would really want to beef it up. Now in a production world where we have a host cluster environment here, we would probably dedicate a lot of RAM, a lot of disk space, a lot of CPU cores to it, so that we could run them side by side right in one virtualized node. But that's how it works. This is how you get Docker running. There's of course a lot more to it. In the next video, what I'd like to do is go over how you can use Kubernetes with something like this, just a basic tutorial overview of Kubernetes. And I'm really not an expert on any of this. I'm not trying to come across as an expert. What I'm trying to get you to do is to get really jazzed about this particular technology, because it's fantastic. It's used absolutely everywhere. It's very popular. And if you want to work in IT, you know, in a very high level fashion, I really recommend that you understand DevOps, specifically Docker and Kubernetes, but there are other tools that you probably need to know as well, like Puppet or Chef or Ansible. There are other tools. That's it for this movie. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you get something productive out of it. Please, if you're liking these videos, please share them with others. Tell others about it. You're welcome to comment on this. I am trying to grow the channel, and I hope I'm being honest with you. I do make mistakes. I really goof things up quite a bit. This is the way of the world with IT. It's like, okay, go back and try. You got to spend, I've spent days trying to solve certain situations, so you got to get used to it. It's really, really a thing where when you're working in IT, you're going to do battle with whatever it is you're trying to get done, and it isn't necessarily going to run for you right away every time. But this is how you install Docker. It's ready to rock and roll, and I will talk to you in the next video. Have a great day.